Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I am your host instructor Dr. Gulab Padma for the subject of Medicine 1. And today I am going to discuss another topic of dermatology, that is osteoarthritis. Being a therapist, it is very important topic from a perspective of a physical therapist because many of the patients you will be meeting in your clinical settings will be having this problem, especially knee osteoarthritis and lumbar spondylosis and cervical spondylosis are very common issues to be seen in the patients, especially coming from the physical therapy services. So that's why it is very important for you people to understand this topic in depth and mainly understand the progression and understand all the presentations and the reasons and the causes and how the pathophysiology works and what are the medical treatment options. These are very important to understand. So, what will be the learning outcomes of today's lecture? By the end of this lecture, hopefully you will be able to understand what are the causes or the risk factors that are associated with the development of osteoarthritis. Then you will be able to understand the pathophysiology and the progression of the disease through different stages. Then you will be able to understand what are the different management options, and that the management options can be divided into the pharmacological and non-pharmacological treatment options. So you will be studying all of these options. So, coming towards the definition, as you all are very well aware that this is a degenerative disease and mainly it affects the synovial joints. And the problem here in most of the joint is that there is focal loss of hyaline cartilage. मतलब joint का जो cartilage है वो उसका loss होता है, लेकिन focal loss है, मतलब focal areas कहीं कहीं से patches में loss होता है. And along with that there is proliferation of newborn, or a newborn is proliferated over there, and joint controlled is like the shape of the joint is changed. So this can be like a comprehensive definition of osteoarthritis. The degenerative disease of synovial joints, focal loss of articular cartilage is there, and there is proliferation of newborn, which leads to osteophyte formation, and there is remodeling of the joint contour, and all these are the main features. So most of the time, the age is it is most common in the age above 50 years of age, and it is most common in the females. As in the hip osteoarthritis, in hip osteoarthritis, male and female are equally affected. Other than that, the osteoarthritis is more common in females. So coming towards the risk factors, actually sometimes it is very difficult to line out definite causes, but we can line out the risk factors. So there are many risk factors that can be caused as the attributions. The first main risk factor is aging. It is what you can say in all cases, the osteoarthritis is linked with the aging process, and its progression and its incidence increases with the increasing age. Then, as I have already said, that it is related with the gender. And coming to the constitutional accessibility, first of all, hereditary. It is seen that in many patients, especially coming towards the nodal OA, that is a kind of OA, it has seen that susceptibility of genetic predisposition is 1:3. Like 3 women, if there is there is a positive hereditary susceptibility, then the one will be affected by the osteoarthritis. So hereditary predisposition is there. Then gender, female gender is mainly affected. Then there are different studies that try to study the role of different hormones in development of osteoarthritis. Although that is not clear, but many studies, there are many studies that show that the women who are taking hormonal replacement therapies, they have less incidence of osteoarthritis. So that's how we can link the gender with the hormonal status, although it is not linked with the parity and the hormonal status in that sense, but hormonal replacement therapy and the females who have good hormone levels, they have less incidence of osteoarthritis. Then next is the obesity. Obesity, the one factor can be that loading of the joints is increased with the obesity that do affect the progression. Rather than causing the osteoarthritis, this is actually a main factor that is playing a role in the progression of the problem. Then high bone mineral density, again it is associated with sometimes like progression of the disease. So that can be coming towards the mechanical factors. There are many mechanical risk factors that can lead to and that are considered as a risk factor for the development of osteoarthritis. One of them is trauma, joint trauma, especially in the male. Most of the time, trauma is there that can lead to the development of uh, osteoarthritis. Then joint shape, like congenitally joint shape and weight distribution is important. Joint alignment. Again, the sign of alignment is that it is related with the weight distribution, proper weight distribution. Whenever there is weight distribution is not equal, then the joint is exposed to abnormal joint weight distribution, and that can lead to the development of osteoarthritic changes. So then the usage is very important. It is seen that there are many occupational linkages seen, and sometimes sports are, especially in sports that are contact sports that are causing some kind of injury, and trauma is related to the sports. Those kind of recreational sports are also linked with the development of osteoarthritis. And the occupation that those involve the twisting of the limbs and these kind of activities and weight bearing activities, those are also seen to be linked with the osteoarthritic conditions. So again, the thing we have already discussed is that osteoarthritis is sometimes seen to be more common in problems where there is you can say that progressive destruction is there, and there are some congenital problems, and especially the problems where some congenitally joint abnormality is there, like slipped femoral epiphysis. Then again, it is related with the risk factors of development of osteoarthritis. And the thing again here is that there is abnormal weight distribution is again linked with that. And then again, the next thing is that it is more common in some in case of especially sports injuries, which comes in this domain, the destabilizing injuries like anterior cruciate ligament injury that affect the stability of the joint, that can lead to the development of um, your osteoarthritis. Then there is a factor which is called obesity. We have already discussed that obesity. The one factor is that it increases the joint loading, but more than that, it is seen that the adipose tissues that are found in obesity, they release cytokines that are involved in all this process. So that is another factor that is seen. Estrogen and hormonal role, I have already discussed this point with you. In relation to the causes, most of the time the cause of osteoarthritis remains unclear. The cause is not clear that what is the main cause. But the thing is that in case when the cause is not clear, then it is called as a primary osteoarthritis. And when there is some obvious cause, like I have already mentioned, that trauma can be a cause, then this is termed as a secondary osteoarthritis. So osteoarthritis can be termed as a primary when there is no clear problem found, and it can be as a secondary when there is obvious found, some kind of cause can be found there. But this is not always the case. Most of the time, the cause is unclear. So most of the time, there is primary osteoarthritis. So coming towards the pathogenesis, so we'll be discussing the pathogenesis of osteoarthritis in a detail in particular in the upcoming slides. So there are many features that need to be discussed and that can be found in this picture. So as you can see, there is thickened capsule. This green one is showing you thickened capsule. There is synovial hypertrophy. This blue one is indicating synovial hypertrophy. Then there is fibrillated shifting cartilage. As you can see, there are fibrillations. And then there is cyst formation, and there is bone sclerosis, loss of actually subchondral bone, that is called bone sclerosis, will be there. And as a result of all these changes, there is altered contouring of the bone. So these are the main changes. And obviously this is osteophyte formation and lipping. You can see here osteophytic lipping. So these are the main changes that will be seen in like osteoarthritis. So what are the mainly pathogenesis involved behind this? The pathogenesis involved behind this is so coming towards the pathogenesis, the main thing is that articular cartilage degeneration of cartilage is the main feature of this problem in osteoarthritis. Okay, the thing is due to different stimulants, there is chondrocytes. They increase the production of matrix components, and they usually produce nests of metabolically active cells. So in start, the chondrocytes, they actually increase the production of matrix. But in spite of this increase of production of the matrix, there is also an increase in degradation of the matrix, and that degradation is not like in proportion to the like production. And as a result of this degradation, there is the decrease in the concentration of aggregates, and especially type 2 collagen concentration, they decrease in concentration, and their decrease in their concentration, they make the cartilage vulnerable to load bearing injury. So in many people, they do not like they in spite of doing such weight bearing activities, in spite of being obese, there is no load bearing injuries. So there are certain factors that just considers that the chondrocyte, they increase the matrix production, but there is increased degradation of aggregates and type 2 collagen, and as a result the cartilage becomes more vulnerable to load bearing activities. मतलब इसका मतलब है कि अब जो है वो ज्यादा उसमें चांसेस बढ़ जाते हैं कि लोड की वजह से वहां पे इंजरी हो जाएगी. सो एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ injury, there will be fissuring. As you can see in this picture, there will be fissuring, and fissuring of the cartilage surfaces, it is called fibrillation. These are vertical fissure. ठीक है, ये इस तरह से fissures बन जाते हैं vertical इसमें. और as a result of these vertical fissures, there is localized chondrocyte death, and obviously if there is localized, once again it is localized, it is not generalized, it is localized chondrocyte death, and chondrocyte death at a focal point, that will lead to cartilage thickness, decreased cartilage thickness at that point. So this then this will obviously lead to an unequal or imbalance of the weight distribution, so cartilage thickness will be reduced. So as a result, as we have already discussed, that the result of this reduction in the amount of aggregates and other like materials that are inhibitors of like crystal deposition, they are like less in the joints which are osteoarthritic. So as a result, these joints become more susceptible to the deposition of calcium phosphate and crystals and other crystals deposition. So that can lead to gout attack, and that can predispose to the pseudogout attacks. So these are the changes in the cartilage. Then along with the cartilage, then again the next level is that bone will also be involved. So what are the bonding changes? Obviously the subchondral bone, there will be loss of subchondral bone, which is called sclerosis, and there also is there cyst formation. So sclerosis is there, and which is bone loss, and simply there is cyst formation. Some say like cyst formation is due to the synovial fluid leakage into those fissures that will lead to the cyst formation. So at the margins, at the joint margins, there is fibrocartilage formation. Like here in the joint margins, there is fibrocartilage formation, and that fibrocartilage then undergoes endochondral ossification. Like there is fibrocartilage formation that undergoes ossification, and that will lead to formation of osteophytes. So these osteophytes become another irritating factors that irritate the joint structures, and that again can lead to joint damage. Then as a result of all of this bone remodeling and all of this cartilage thickening, the overall result is that shape of the joint is altered. Overall joint की shape जो है वो आपकी change हो जाती है. ठीक है. So coming towards the changes in the synovial sheet, or you can say synovium. So it is hyperplastic due to inflammatory changes. I have shown in the previous picture that the synovium becomes hyperplastic, as you can see in the this picture. Here you can see that synovial hypertrophy you can see here. So it also becomes thicker. And as a result of this change in the synovium, actually there is some formation of osteochondral bodies in the synovium, and that lead to chondral metaplasia. तो concept behind that is कि वहाँ पे जो cartilage damage हुआ है, cartilage wear tear हुआ है, synovial जो है उन particles को pick up कर लेती है, उन particles को pick up करके उनकी proliferation हो जाती है. So that is called chondral metaplasia. So chondral metaplasia is seen in the synovium, and the overall result is that your outer capsule becomes thick and contracted. As you can see in this picture, the capsule, it becomes thickened and it becomes contracted, but it has a beneficial effect. Like, unlike the rheumatoid arthritis where the joint stability is compromised sometimes, this contraction and thickening of the capsule, this it maintains the joint stability. इसका result क्या होता है, joint आपका stable है, लेकिन sometimes ये आपके functional जो range of motion है उसको reduce कर देगा, लेकिन on the other hand ये आपकी joint की स्टेबिलिटी को मेंटेन रखता है. तो ये जो कैप्सूल थिकनिंग है इसका एक बेनिफिट भी है, अगर इसका नुकसान है तो उसके साथ साथ. So these are the general like pathophysiology of and changes that take place in osteoarthritis. Now next we'll be discussing the nodal generalized osteoarthritis, and we are going to be discussing different types of osteoarthritis. So the most common type is you can say generalized osteoarthritis is called nodal generalized osteoarthritis. Knee osteoarthritis is majorly more common in the females, most common in the females, but nodal generalized osteoarthritis is also a common presentation. So typically it is present once again in women, and especially the age of 40 to 50 years is most susceptible. Patient have complaint of pain and stiffness, and the main feature of this includes that there is swelling of either one or few of the interphalangeal joints, and distal one are more involved as compared to the proximal ones. So all the changes we discussed in the last slides, they lead to the formation of nodes. That they are Heilbronn nodes if they involve your distal interphalangeal joints, and Bouchard nodes if they involve your proximal interphalangeal joints. And sometimes along with that, there is also a lateral deviation of the fingers, especially at the distal interphalangeal joints, and that lateral deviation is actually showing you that there is asymmetrical cartilage loss. So due to that asymmetrical cartilage, there is lateral deviation of the fingers at the DIP especially. And again, another very common problem is the involvement of first carpometacarpal joint, means your thumb joint, first carpometacarpal joint is involved, and that is also affected, that leads to functional limitation patients. And the thing is that this kind of osteoarthritis, it predisposes to other osteoarthritis, it is linked with other kinds of osteoarthritis too. So this is your nodal generalized osteoarthritis, which is very common to be seen in old age females. Next is knee osteoarthritis. Knee osteoarthritis is very common, and most commonly it involves your patellofemoral joints and medial compartment and of knee joint, means medial tibiofemoral joints. These are the most affected part. Now when it targets your patellofemoral joints, then obviously the pain is like more prominent in your interior sides and your medial aspects of the knee, and it can radiate down, and especially to the upper tibia, and especially the pain that is related with the patellofemoral joint, that will lead to the difficulty in climbing stairs and coming down of the stairs, these kind of activities, and sitting and getting out of the chair, these activities become a bit difficult. Posterior knee pain is also sometimes like advocated, and that is the case when sometimes there are different kinds of ancillary bursitis or popliteal bursitis that are like linked with your and because cyst sometimes can be the reason that can lead to the posterior knee pain, but most of the time the pain is interior or on the medial aspect of the knee. So the thing is, due to as the medial compartment is mainly affected, so sometimes that there is like pain in the medial compartment, and there is reduction of the joint space in the medial compartment, and those both of these factors lead to the development of antalgic and jerky kind of a gait is there. And the patient usually involves a varus deformity. As you can see here, that varus deformity is formed But in rare cases, the valgus deformity can also be there. But most of the time, varus deformity develops. Then the patient has joint line or periarticular tenderness is present, like जो joint line है या joint के जो इर्द के structures है वहाँ पे patient जो है वो काफी tenderness feel करता है. And the thing related with that is there is weakness and wasting of especially the quadriceps muscles. So this is the factor जिसकी वजह से फिर हम लोग जो है पेशेंट्स को नी आइसोमेट्रिक एक्सरसाइज की तरफ जाते हैं और जो है मसल्स जो है उनको कोशिश करते हैं कि उनकी स्ट्रेंथनिंग कराई जाए बिकॉज देयर इज वीकनेस इन रेस्टिंग ऑफ quadriceps muscles. And as a result of these weakness, as a result of joint capsule shrinkage, there is restricted extension and flexion. And in the very worst cases, there can be fixed flexion deformity can also develop. And sometimes bony swelling around the joint can also be seen as there is bony remodeling. So there will be bony swelling. The next type is hip osteoarthritis, and the hip osteoarthritis, it mostly affects the superior aspect, and very less commonly it affects the medial aspect of the joint. And medial aspect is usually, it is rare, and it is if it is found, it is usually found in the women. So most of the time it affects the superior aspects. So in case of hip osteoarthritis, pain is maximally deep into the groin area. And the hip osteoarthritis, it has a very deep correlation and very strong correlation between the radiographic changes and the pain and disability patient is experienced, and there is very strong correlation between both of these. So pain is usually deep in the groin area. Obviously, the patient will be having antalgic gait due to this pain, and prognosis of hip osteoarthritis is not that much good if compared to the knee osteoarthritis. Knee osteoarthritis has a better prognosis as compared to the hip osteoarthritis. And along with that, if the patient is having superior involvement of the hip joint, then the patient sometimes experience upward slippage of the femoral head, and this upward slippage of the femoral head, that this can also lead to the unilateral leg shortening. Most of the time in the osteoarthritis, hip osteoarthritis, it is unilateral most of the time, but can be bilateral in certain cases. Then again, there is weakness, associated weakness and wasting of the muscle. This time, along with the quadriceps, gluteal muscles are also they are wasted, and there is weakness of the muscle. And especially if you check the movements, you will check that there is pain and restricted internal rotation with hip flexion. Like this is even considered as a preliminary test. Very early sign जो है जिसे आप hip osteoarthritis को diagnose कर सकते हो कि अगर hip फ्लेक्शन के साथ इंटरनल रोटेशन करने की कोशिश की जाए तो वो बहुत ज्यादा पेनफुल एंड रिस्ट्रिक्टेड होता है. सो दैट्स व्हाई मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम पेशेंट के जो हिप जॉइंट है वो आपको एक्सटर्नल रोटेशन में जो है वो मिलेगा, बिकॉज इंटरनल रोटेशन इज क्वाइट पेनफुल एंड इट इज वेरी like early sign, and after that the other movements will also become painful and restricted with time and with the progression of the disease. Next, there is a type which is called early onset osteoarthritis. As we have discussed that most of the time the osteoarthritis is correlated with the age, but in early onset osteoarthritis, before the age of 45 years it is seen, and most of the time single joint is involved in that, but it may involve multiple joints, but in most of the time single joint is involved. And sometimes there is a very clear history of previous trauma that can lead to it, and you need to investigate for the causes of the osteoarthritis, and most of the time the causes are very rare kind of congenital diseases that can lead to the development of early onset osteoarthritis other than the trauma. Then coming towards the spine osteoarthritis. Spine osteoarthritis, the most of the time cervical spine and lumbar spine is involved. It is then called cervical spondylosis and lumbar spondylosis. So obviously the result will be the patient will be presenting with backache and neck pain, and sometimes it as there is osteophyte formation and there is a reduction in the joint space, as we have discussed as the main feature of osteoarthritis. So there can be nerve root compression that will then lead to the radiation of the pain in your arms and in your legs and your buttocks. There can be stenosis and there can be nerve root compression. So most of the time the pain will be relieved by the rest, and it becomes worse with the movement, but on the other hand it will be relieved by the rest. So this is the spine osteoarthritis that is commonly seen. Then there is a rare hand involvement which is called erosive osteoarthritis. It is rare, but it is very erosive kind of technique, and it is disease. You can say deformity. It can lead to formation of the deformity, and it has like inflammatory features are prominent, unlike the other types of osteoarthritis, and it especially targets your proximal interphalangeal joints. So there is proximal interphalangeal joints are involved, and there is lateral instability, or you can say lateral deviation of proximal interphalangeal joints are mainly involved. Then there is very clear like indication of uh, sclerosis, subchondral erosion and sclerosis on x-rays, and in worst cases the IPG becomes ankylosed, means there is no movement possible at that point. The IPG becomes that much like enclosed. So there is lack of association with other types of osteoarthritis. This is rare type, but this is very like its progression and its disability and its erosive nature. It is very aggressive type, although it is rare. So this is sometimes this is also found, and this is named as erosive osteoarthritis. Now coming towards the investigation. So investigation के लिए simple X-ray जो है वो आपके लिए ना सिर्फ आपको बताएंगे डायग्नोसिस, बल्कि डिजीज प्रोग्रेशन के लिए भी सिंपल एक्सरे ही जो है वो आपके लिए डायग्नोस्टिक जो है वो पर्पस प्ले कर सकते हैं. So as you can see in this picture, that plain X-ray, it is showing many features. Now here you can see subchondral sclerosis, like this dark colored shadows. This indicates usually sclerosis. Then you can see here subchondral cyst. You can find here subchondral cyst, that this one is indicating that. Then joint space narrowing is indicated here, and then osteophytes at the margins of the joints. These are lipping of the joint margins. Osteophytes are like demonstrated in this picture. Marginal osteophytes, again, these arrows are showing marginal osteophytes in this picture to give you a more clear indication. Then subchondrosis, the arrow, white arrow is like showing, and even the black one is showing you the subchondrosis formation that is seen in this radiograph. The X-rays are very excellent investigation in case of osteoarthritis, that give you their indication of the diagnosis. Not only diagnostic purposes are fulfilled, but it also tells you about the progression of the disease. The other investigations that can help you, the blood test. In that case, all of the blood tests are already almost normal, because inflammation is not a prominent feature. If sometimes inflammation is there, even then it is very low grade inflammation, and low grade synovitis is seen in case of osteoarthritis. So that's why the full blood count is normal, your ESR is normal, your C-reactive protein is normal. So all of these are normal, which are raised in case of rheumatoid arthritis and other inflammatory problems. So rheumatoid factor will also be negative. If you see the synovial fluid analysis, you will find it viscous with low turbidity, because cell count is reduced in case if you find the synovial fluid analysis. Then again, if the patient is having superadded crystal deposition, CPDD and calcium phosphate, that can be seen if synovial fluid analysis is done. So another investigation that can be helpful is that if MRI is needed, if you are suspecting kind of stenosis and nerve compression associated with cervical or lumbar problems, then you may need to perform an MRI to like rule out the nerve compression and stenosis in that cases. So coming towards the management can be divided into three categories. The first one is known pharmacological or non-pharmacotherapy. The main role comes with the physiotherapy. The next is pharmacotherapy, and the even next is surgical interventions. So starting from the non-pharmacotherapy, the very first point is patient education. You need to educate the patient how he has to protect the joint, how he has to take care of his joint, because the disease is progressive in nature. So it is very important to make the patient educated about the risk factors associated with the sequelae and the progression of the disease. So in case of neck and lumbar spine involvement, the proper position and neck support, especially in sitting and sleeping position is very important, and sitting for neostratus patients, as you all know कि हम जनरल इंस्ट्रक्शंस देते हैं कमोड रिड्यूस करें, ठीक है, बैठ के नमाज पढ़ें, ठीक है, हमने नीचे बैठने से मना कर देते हैं, रेपिटेटिव जो इस तरह के मोशंस हैं जो जॉइंट को डैमेज कर सकते हैं, फ्रीक्वेंट बेंडिंग एंड वेट बेयरिंग दैट कैन डैमेज द जॉइंट, दैट इज advised to be avoided. Then another thing that can help the patient is to lose weight if the patient is obese or overweight. The weight reduction not only helps that it reduce the pain of the patient, but it also slows down the progression of the degeneration. So that's why uh, weight loss is usually advised to such patient. Then comes the roles of physical therapist. That exercise is very important because I have already mentioned that there is muscle loss and muscle wasting. That's why exercise is very important, especially aerobic conditioning exercises, especially muscle strengthening exercises are very important. And reduction of any adverse mechanism like proper joint mechanics should be advised to the patient to protect the joint from further injury. Then weight loss is there, pacing of the activities like performing the activities at a speed that is not damaging for the joint surfaces. Then appropriate footwear is very important. The heel and these kinds of actually shock absorbing footwear should be advised to the patient that they should wear shock absorbing kind of footwear. And assistive devices like stick, if it is unilateral, one stick can be used on the side of the joint, which is more effective, or the kind of air where this is required. So assistive devices can be advised for the patient. Now coming towards the pharmacotherapy. In case of pharmacotherapy, we have many options pharmacotherapy. अच्छा ठीक, अब यहाँ पे जो है जो रूल है वो ये है कि आप लीस्ट से स्टार्ट करते हैं. पहले आप कोशिश करें कंजर्वेटिवली मैनेज हो जाए, लाइफ स्टाइल मैनेज हो जाए, वेट रिडक्शन हो जाए, एजुकेशन हो जाए, और फिर मेडिसिन में भी आप लीस्ट से मैनेज करने की कोशिश करते हैं. अगर उससे सिम्टम्स मैनेज नहीं हो रही तो फिर आप अगली स्टेप पर जाएंगे. So starting with if the patient is unable to manage the pain without medication, then paracetamol is the first choice from where it can be started. So in paracetamol, usually it is initial drug of choice, and orally 1 gram 6 to 8 hourly is recommended. Then the next choice is topical NSAID. So topical like analgesics are used, like capsaicin can be used, or rather any topical analgesic can be used. So these analgesics are used, and then if these analgesics these are not working and the patient is still complaining of the pain, then you can add NSAIDs. So NSAIDs then can be added in your treatment plan. They include ibuprofen and coxaves, like cox inhibitors. They can be used. Then even after that, you can, if still the pain is not settling down, then you can go towards weak opioids. Especially, they can be occasionally required if the patient is having severe pain. Then weak opioids can be recommended to the patients. Then the other thing is that can be is found helpful in patients in case where there is severe symptoms is intra-articular corticosteroid injections. These are especially for your knee joints and your thumb joints, carpometacarpal joints, first carpometacarpal joints. Intra-articular steroid injection can help in those cases. So these are usually given for up to the 3 months. Then there is another option which is called hyaluronic injection. So these are hyaluronic injections are given for the patients weekly for 3 to 5 weeks, and they can give the pain relief for several months. So these are the main pharmacological agents. So mainly after paracetamol, the next thing should be topical analgesia. In that case, your physical modalities like local cold or heat application, your hot packs, hydrotherapy tents, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, those can all help. और बहुत ही बेहतर होगा पेशेंट को हम ट्रॉपिकल एनर्जेटिक से और जो है आपकी स्ट्रेंथनिंग एक्सरसाइज से उसी से पेन मैनेज कर लें. और उसे क्रोनिक यूज ऑफ एनसाइड्स की तरफ ना लेके जाए, क्योंकि उसके अपने बहुत सारे साइड इफेक्ट्स जो है फिर हो जाते हैं, ठीक है. So there are some capsicum containing topicals, and like their use is like well spotted by the evidence. There are research studies that demonstrate and that provide evidence for their effectiveness, and they can be used daily for up to 2 weeks. And there is like compliance is poor, not proper instruction is given, like an eye contact with the eyes should be avoided. There are the liniments like that contain methyl salicylates, which you can say these are topical NSAIDs. So these are like kind of oil containing ointments. These can be used, but they all provide temporary benefit. Their benefit is not like a long term, because all of these either NSAIDs or paracetamol or topical analgesia, they will only provide symptomatic relief. They are not going to do anything with the actual problem or actual osteoarthritic problem. They are only going to provide a symptomatic relief. So then there is intra-articular steroids. They also give good pain relief, and mostly it is used for the knees. And along with this, carpal metacarpal joint of thumb is also like a joint where they are applied. So they are applied every 3 months. But their beneficial benefits, they are also along with benefits there are also some side effects, like with frequent injections there are obviously with every injection there is risk infection, and sometimes it worsens the diabetes, or it like can lead towards the heart failure. So these are the risk factors associated with the continuous use of intra-articular steroids. Then hyaluronate injections, they also give symptomatic relief, and weekly injections should be given for 3 to 5 weeks. And it is seen that there is improved function, expensive, and but a series of injections are required. And that it is not heavily spotted by the evidence. And moreover, another like side effect is that most of the time their use is limited to the knee joint. So long-term benefit is quite questionable, and strong studies are not available. But this is also an option that is adapted by certain physicians. Then we have polysulfated glycosamine or glycanes. So glucosamine plus minus chondroitin sulfate. They are sometimes used, and they give symptomatic relief. And there is no sign effect. But again, the evidence is not like there to support its long-term effect. There are few evidence, but the studies are under questions, and their quality of the study is questioned. So that's why they are like under question. Their efficacy is under question. And then there are some disease modifying drugs. Although they are all the drugs we have previously studied, they all give only symptomatic relief, and they have no effect on the disease progression. But these tetracyclines like protease or cytokine inhibitors, they are considered as a disease modifying potential, but again these are under study. So there are no what you can say कोई ऐसी मुस्तनद disease modified drugs जो है वो अभी तक कोई authentic कोई recommended किसी जो है organization से अभी तक नहीं है जो osteoarthritis के लिए recommended हो. Although trial basis पे कुछ चीजें जो है वो दे दी जाती हैं patients को. So the last option is surgical treatment, and it is most of the time only considered for those patients that do not give a proper response to pharmacotherapy, or when the patient is having severe functional limitation and the quality of the life is the quality of life of the patient is compromised. Then these options are opted to improve the quality of life of the patient, and at least to make him functional. So first option can be osteotomy, where a part of bone is removed if there is, like most of the time in the medial, say knee, if the knee is involved in medial compartment, there is a joint space reduction in the medial compartment. So tibial osteotomy can be done there to improve this problem. The other thing is joint replacement. There are part of a joint can be removed. Then the thing is that total joint replacement can be there. So as you all know that these days the option of TKR, total knee replacement, and total hip replacement, these are very much adapted for the patients of the osteoarthritis, and their results are also quite favorable. And if the patient is having severe functional limitation, then like it improves the functionality of the patient. So these are the things that are like most common cause for the joint replacement is osteoarthritis. So that's why these are the options that are opted for such patients. So this is all regarding the osteoarthritis. What are the points to remember from this lectures is that established structural changes are permanent. The changes which have taken place, they are permanent in osteoarthritis, but pain and function, they can be improved. And most of the time, being a therapist, our role is to improve them without use of medications. Long-term use of medication, especially NSAIDs, that can also lead to other uh, problems, especially to a GIT problem, and ulceration is a common problem and side effect that can be seen. So the thing is that you need to control the pain and improve the function of the patient with osteoarthritis. So thank you so much. That's all from the lecture today. I hope you people will find out this helpful for you.